Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 295 at scavengerlife.com.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi. I haven't seen you all day.
We'll talk about that in a bit. So today I want to talk about when you're trying to change your scavenging strategies, or when you're trying to evolve your eBay business.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, some people hearing this, they're brand new, so they're just like, this is all I know. But, if you've been selling online for a while, you change strategies to either make more money, or because you're having difficulty finding the same thing that you've always found, or because you're just getting bored.
Yeah.
And you want to change it up.
Yep.
So this year, we've actually said it for several years in a row, but this year we're committed to try and invest in higher dollar items that sell for more.
Yes.
Our strategy up until now has mainly been, paying $1 for an item, buying a bag of something for one price, buying a box of items, and then selling each of those items for $20, $30. And every so often, like I'd say 5% of the time, even one of those $1 items might sell for over $100.
Right.
And that strategy's done us very well because we were able to start with no capital, and even up until this day, it's really a no-risk proposition.
Right.
The only thing that we invest in is our time.
Yes. And storage.
But,
yeah.
You were even telling me that just the other day. It's like, I'm kind of tired of working so hard. And, it
okay,
is...
well, we are doing a renovation that is costing a lot of money. So that puts, that puts the pressure on to be like...
We got to sell a lot of old shoes to
you got to sell a lot of stuff, and you got to just... And also now we have a helper, so it's like I have to have stuff for her to do. I can't just be like, I don't have anything. But yeah, it gets tiring,
And so the idea is, we've talked about it on the blog with other people, other scavengers, why don't we find a place where we can buy things for $50 and sell it for $500, or buy for $100 and sell for $200, invest more and then make more, so we have to sell not as much. So I was committed. This past week we went to an auction, a higher priced auction.
Yep.
That we enjoy.
Yeah.
And so we go there, and like a lot of auctions, the first couple hours is more like the back room.
Right.
And it's the box lots.
It's box lots,
and it's, boxes of junk and tables.
Like, look, this auction house, and I forgot that they did this. They will have a tabletop full of stuff, and they'll say everything on top and everything below it, and you're like,
one money.
That is a lot of stuff,
and it's all dealers there.
It's all dealers.
And
yeah,
so,
there's nobody there for fun.
And so I bought two tables of books for $10. I bought another table of some books, and then a big box of just CDs.
Yeah.
Audio CDs for $20. And then I bought a whole table of just knickknacks and stuff for $50.
And that was a really cool table. It had a lot of good stuff on it, actually.
And I could tell, and I remember when I was doing that you're getting overwhelmed. You're like,
Oh, trust me. It was the first thing you bought was two huge tables of books. I was like, oh, did not start well. Right. This is not what I wanted to do.
So the auction up till this point is just we're sticking to our old ways.
Right.
I mean, we're in for $50, $70, $80.
Right.
And we already have a truckload of stuff.
Literally, the entire truck was almost filled.
And just to be clear, I'm sure other people that go to auction do this too. I mean, I knew on those tables that there was already profit there.
Yes. So, there were things that I had picked out on that table.
It's like we had already made money.
Yeah.
And then the second part of this auction, it's a fancier auction.
The high-end
is where
stuff.
It's like the individual items get auctioned off. And this is the kind of place where there's like, antique wool rugs and like Tiffany.
I mean, actual Tiffany, signed Tiffany. You're like, oh, this is
whatever,
like, I don't want to touch it. Yeah,
there were like Coach chairs, like these leather
Coach leather chairs.
Yeah.
And you know what? They sold, it was a pair of like whatever they call it. My mom always calls them club chairs. And they were Coach suede, and I was like, those are gorgeous. You know, they only sold for $700 for the pair, which I was like, that's not a bad deal.
But my point is, when the second part started, and like this is when we were going to turn over a new leaf, and we're going to start like
let's go, let's leave.
What happened? Like we didn't even stay for wait, real quick.
We bought a rug.
Right, we didn't even stay for half of the fancy auction.
Right.
We just were like, let's just go. Why didn't we stay and start bidding on expensive?
Why.
Okay,
the truck was full. Like I looked at, I mean, you had like 25 boxes, and I was like,
okay,
there's no more.
Real quick. I could have easily have put more stuff.
Something on top.
I could have easily put more stuff on that, and if I had to, I could have easily gone through the books and pulled out the ones I knew.
You tell me why did you want to leave then? Or was it me that wanted to leave?
I mean, you felt.
Oh, you're blaming me.
No. It's not real quick. It's not blame. I think both of us were just. To me, I feel like we work best when we're a partnership,
Right.
When both of us are committed and having fun.
Yeah.
But when one of us doesn't want to be there, I don't want to be there either. I'm like, well, I don't want to be here either if you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Was it, you were telling me one thing about there was some guy that kept bidding
This one guy, my nemesis. Because I love rugs and I want to buy rugs for the house that we're renovating and also to sell. And he's a dealer, and every rug that I bid on in the other half, because there were some distressed rugs in the other half, and I was like, I'll totally buy those. He would just bid me up. He was like, I'm getting this.
Right. Okay, but I feel like we're about to have a breakthrough here. But you were telling me he was bidding up too much, and I was like, how much? He was like,
$30.
$70. Rugs were selling for like $70. Like I outbidded him on one rug, and we got two rugs for $50.
That's true.
I think because you're in the mindset of I want to pay $5 for this antique rug, which we've bought before.
Right, we have done that.
But that's not evolving our method. Being willing to pay
more for a nicer thing.
$80 for a rug that we know we can sell for $800,
right?
Or however much,
$500. Yeah. I think honestly, I do have to say what's really hard right now is I know that money is tight because we are renovating the other house. Like every penny is accounted for at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm just like. We spent $225 on this huge lot of stuff, and I'm like, that's good.
Okay, I'm going to counter you on that. Okay, so because I want us to evolve, what if the next time we go to an auction such as this, we budget ourselves and we say we're allowed to spend $500. Like, let's not leave without spending $500.
Yeah, that's smart, and that's not,
go for it,
and that's not bad. I mean, that's. Yeah, we can afford that for
instance,
the business.
I just think positively. Like those Tiffany, they were like these bowls, right?
Yeah.
It was like a group of Tiffany signed vintage Tiffany bowls.
Yeah.
And I think they sold for like $700 or something.
No, it wasn't a group of bowls. It was two pieces that went together.
Okay.
It sold for $1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, so
here's my thing. I'm like, well, what if, maybe that day we couldn't afford $1,000, but, after this renovation, $1,000 wouldn't be impossible. I'm like,
how much could it sell for?
I think that's the thing that holds me back when I was looking at all the stuff that was going to come ahead. It was like a lot of artwork, a lot of just like 17th century items, stuff totally out of my wheelhouse. My thing is, I just feel like I don't know enough.
Right.
And when we're buying stuff like tables for $50, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have to know what any of this stuff is. I just have to have a hunch on a couple things, and I'm good.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to be investing $1,000 in a Tiffany bowl, I need to know. So I'm thinking next time, too, we'll give ourselves a budget so we allow ourselves as money to spend. We always go in preview. This time, though, we need to make sure we spend more time previewing
Online.
the expensive stuff. Start writing stuff down.
I saw other dealers had lists.
These are all dealers. We don't have to act coy.
Yeah.
We can, use our phones. We'll write stuff down. Then we'll go grab coffee and let's start researching and seeing how much this stuff pays
Right, because we got there over an hour early,
Right.
so we had time.
Because, what if you could buy a Tiffany Bowl for $1,000, it sells for $5,000?
Yeah. Well, they had a printout of a exact same bowl. It wasn't a bowl. What it is it was a thing to hold flowers. It's really, you're like, what? Who is ever going to use
this? It's like early 19th century stuff,
like, it's
right?
just, I'm just like, what?
It's a
No,
world.
I don't think it was that old.
Oh,
but
no.
they had a printout from another auction at like wherever, some other high-end auction, and they were like, auction estimate was like $4,000 to $5,000, and they're like, price realized $1,500, and you're like, it's like the most impractical piece of glass ever. But when you see those names, it's hand signed Tiffany. You're like,
so we'll kind of is wrap this up, but there were a lot of rugs. I mean, we only went through a couple of them and then we split, but there were a lot of rugs.
There were a lot of
ahead.
small ones. Yeah.
There was like that whole pile
There's
of rugs.
a stack.
How much do you think rugs like that sell for? $500? I mean,
I don't know, because yes, totally. Those were small. They were like 3x5. But if they're in good shape and they're like the thick, like plush, like beautiful wool, those are like very expensive rugs, Yeah. But it's almost like, look, the auction house, even if it is the high-end auction house, they are the wholesaler. Right. I mean, you're not going to get it any cheaper.
I mean, we say high-end people. There are probably people out there that, higher end scavengers who are laughing at us. It's for us high-end it means like it's not the auctions where everything's basically just under $20, like there's a lot of auctions we go to where it's just an estate sales, it's a normal middle class person, and it's all fairly affordable stuff. This is kind of auction house that does have like, named artists.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's still
a bargain.
Yeah, it's
like
still
people
a bargain.
are walking like those coach chairs. I'm like, look, if they weren't suede, because for me, I'm like, I'm not putting suede in a rental.
No. But what if we could have bought them to sell?
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Right, exactly.
What if you got 2 coach chairs for $700 and
you sold them for like $3,000 or something? But like you said, well, the other thing too about those coach chairs. Sorry, I'm like going on a rant here. They didn't name them as Coach. They didn't like say anything about it, so you had to lift up the cushion, which I did, of course.
But that's okay.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is online, when you're researching, you're just like, they're 2 leather chairs.
Right.
And,
well, I see that as a positive that the auction house doesn't, advertise that something is Coach, like, and that you just have to kind of dig in to see that.
No, that's true.
Okay. So we're publicly then announcing that it's next time we're going to try and do better. I'll do better too, like in the cheaper area in the box slots. I'll try to hold back my my impulse to like just buy entire tables of stuff.
Well, the books are different because the reason we bought the books, we're not doing Amazon anymore. We're not just like putting up whatever. I mean, some of these books are like super old, antique. They're interesting to look at. They're signed. Some of them are signed.
Well, like last time we were there and I bought a table of books, there were a set of vintage, it's Russian dictionaries.
Yeah, it was Russian to American like reference books, like dictionaries.
And they were just getting rid of them. I grabbed them and we sold them for $100 overnight. So
yeah, no, it was $125 to someone in like Arkansas.
Yeah. So anyway,
amazing.
We're going to evolve. Good news is we came home with really a truckload of stuff. I think there were 24 boxes of items.
Boxes.
We probably got rid of 6 boxes of stuff just
books.
Straight away.
Yeah, of junk.
But I mean, we probably have at least a couple $1,000s worth of stuff that will get sold.
Right.
Okay. I also wanted to talk about we've talked about this before about like the weird marketplace of eBay of where sometimes a financial its logic doesn't make sense. Like Ryan bought stamps,
postage stamps
on eBay, and they were cheaper than buying them from the post office, but just by like 5 cents. And my question is like, why is someone and he sells a lot of them?
Yeah, that's like what he
it's not
sells.
like he just had a drawer open and he had some stamps and he's like, I'll just get rid of them. I don't care if I lose some money on them. He's buying them. He's selling them on a regular basis. Like, is he stealing them?
Well, so when you did an interview with the postcard guy, he said, because he mails postcards just with a forever stamp, he was like, I buy them in bulk off eBay for cheaper than the post office. And I was like, I'm definitely doing that because I run out of stamps all the time and I can never get to the post office. And USPS.com charges you like $1.25 shipping.
Right.
So this guy had free shipping, and the forever stamps, essentially, instead of 47 cents, they were 45 cents, with free shipping.
Okay, fine. So I'm wondering, though, how does he make his money? And so my either thing is he works at the post office and steals them, or
hopefully not.
He's like this crazy, smart arbitragist where, like, in 2010, he buys $50,000 worth of its forever stamps, waits 5 years for the price to go up several times, and by the time he sells them, he makes a profit. He's making 15 cents a stamp. I mean, like, that's it. But that is such the long game.
Well, so if people don't know what a forever stamp is, that's the idea of a forever stamp. It's always one. It's always one rate. In the old days, you'd buy like the 30-cent stamp, and then the price went up 2 cents the next year, and you'd have to buy these makeup stamps. And then finally, the post office was like...
I think it's because, especially in recent, 10, 15 years, 20 years, the post office raises their prices fairly often.
Yeah,
and
they had to do it.
They had to do it, and it's smart.
But the great thing is if you buy a huge roll of them, in 3 years, you're not like, Right. It's like... You've invested. You've saved money, basically.
So, and then the other thing is we had a guy from Iceland buy just like a plastic gas can from us, like just the kind that you buy at the convenience store when you run out of gas.
Plastic gas can.
5 gallon. I found it at a thrift store for $1. He bought it. He basically paid $50 shipped to Iceland. Right.
So it was $25 and he paid $25 to have it shipped to Iceland.
I mean, do they not sell gas cans in Iceland? I mean, it's just...
Well, so here's the idea. Look, we've been to countries like Australia where you're like, that regular, normal, cheap thing we buy at Walmart costs so much money in Australia. It's literally cheaper to have it shipped from the United States.
Okay, yeah. Well,
but I don't know. You're right. Yeah. I have no idea.
I want to do an experiment and see if this podcast somehow reaches somebody in Iceland or someone that is Icelandic. I'd love to know what logic that would be.
Well, here's the hard thing is, like, I should just message the person, just like, I'm just curious, but then they might get weird about us, like, asking them why.
They would be like, why? Am I paying too much?
Like, no.
I want my money back.
No.
Okay. eBay this week for us.
Yes.
So we talked about our scavenging, and that was fun. We always enjoy that, going to auctions. We officially paid our helper as a W-2 worker this week. So she worked 2 weeks.
Yes.
And using Square Payroll, the 2 weeks is up, and it paid her. So we paid her $318 for 2 weeks of work because she works part-time.
Yes.
So I'm sharing these numbers because I think it might be interesting to people. So our cost was actually $3.52.
$352.
And 29 cents.
Right.
So we actually paid, an extra, $34.29.
Right.
On top of what we pay her per hour. And that's us paying for Social Security and Medicare, for its federal unemployment tax, and for its Virginia state unemployment insurance tax. So all these things happen. So,
And then she has to pay also about that same amount. I think it's actually a little more on her end.
Right. So she'll actually only get $282 of that because it's withhold or taxes. We've all been through that.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, she'll probably get a lot of that its money back.
Right.
But so it's really been interesting to kind of see this from the employer's angle. I mean, we already knew this from talking to our accountant, but basically it's about an extra 11% that you pay on top of her hourly wage.
Her wages,
and that's and I think, and you even said, oh, now I know why conservatives freak out about this stuff.
That's literally the first thought I had. I was oh, because
why is the government controlling my life?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it was just, I haven't been a payroll worker in so long that I'm like, oh yeah, it's so much money on both ends. It just...
But, I don't know, anyone that works,
I
mean, the question is, don't you want these protections? And these are protections of, I mean, ask anyone, ask your grandparents if they like having a Social Security check, if they like having it's Medicare. As soon as you turn 65, I mean, Jesus, people are having heart transplants and,
and unemployment insurance. And
unemployment insurance, and people talk about, well, I still have to get some kind of medical insurance, but trust me, we won't get into the politics of it. I just wanted to just share those. It's numbers, because some people have talked about thinking of hiring people, and I know, there's two ways of thinking about this, just hire them 1099s, make sure it's clear that they're freelancers, contractors. And then on the other side, though, I do want to say, it isn't really that scary if you want to hire someone as a W-2 employee. I mean, it really,
not that bad.
It's not that bad. It's only a little bit more, and everyone feels good about it, or at least we do. So.
Yeah.
And then in eBay, this week, we're also changing another big part of our process.
Yes,
And this is something casually spoken to me. Ryan, we were in the car, and Ryan is changing my entire life.
Well, it was going to come up eventually. It just happened to come up right then. But so working with our employee, something that I had learned from people on the blog was to take pictures with your phone and do the drafts on your computer and then just list it right then.
Right, open up the eBay app.
Right.
And just take pictures on drafts.
Right, through your drafts. Yeah.
On the phone, and it just goes right to eBay.
Right, so it's you're using your phone as just a Wi-Fi camera, basically, which is awesome. And so we've been doing that, and my helper and I have been doing that, and it's super convenient. I mean, there's no record of the photos. I'm all about archiving, so I'm I don't have an archive.
So if eBay blew up, we wouldn't have any of our listings. Yeah.
So obviously I need to figure out how to export that stuff. I know people have a million ways that can happen. But so here's the deal. So I have all this stuff scheduled from her, and I work on those when she's here and when she's not here and whenever. But then I have these folders of stuff that Jay does.
Right. And this has been an old way where I take photos on an actual camera. A nice
digital camera.
Yeah. Beautiful with great lens.
Okay, right.
And anyway, and then I go to Google Docs. We have a shared Google Doc where I will then write a title and do the description and write if there's anything wrong. And then Ryan, and this is what we've done since 2008. And then Ryan actually goes into eBay and
lists that stuff.
And a list and just copies and pastes.
I mean, the thing about it is super fast because I'm copying and pasting it. But now that we have this whole other system, I'm why don't you just schedule all that
so
that I can just list it right away instead of having 20 folders waiting for me, or you
You're right.
You research the price and you list it.
People have been saying that forever.
I honestly, it's so easy. It's you're doing the exact same thing that you were doing before. Yeah. Except on the eBay webpage.
Here's the deal. You're saying it as if I've ever said no to this.
No.
So this week, I'm absolutely changing my process. Ryan, I might even have our helper come over and show me how she does it.
Right.
And I have a whole box of stuff I'm ready to do. I have my iPhone, and I will learn how to do that. And absolutely, I think it's great. I mean, anything to get us to be more productive. And again, I will say, this way of changing and making us more efficient is only because other scavengers have taken the time to come on its forums and have explained their process, have answered questions, and have really come with proven. When someone can come and tell us something that we can try ourselves and reproduce and get the same effect, then that's real shared information versus people that come on and are just kind of like giving opinions that really can't be tested or reproduced. It's fine to have those opinions, but that's different from actually sharing solid advice like this.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it has helped us tremendously. I mean, this is such a faster process.
So now we have a camera that we can sell, I guess.
That camera is also our video camera, so we kind of need that. But so my question to you is, if she's working on drafts and you're working on drafts at the same time, are you going to be able to? Yeah, I guess you'll just name them differently than hers, so you can see them. I just hope they don't get mixed up.
Well, that's something we'll have to figure out.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Or you don't work when she's working or something.
No, we.
Oh, I know. Everyone should be working.
It's like this past week, we were all working together.
At the same time, I know.
Okay, the Scavenge of the Week.
So we went to the auction. So what was it? It wasn't those books. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think the Scavenge of the Week was on that table that we had bought a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things that I bought the table for were these 2 small plastic bins of buttons.
As I say, buttons.
And we had talked about this a week ago about finding caches, this was a cache, like someone,
so many buttons,
probably a woman, had collected these throughout her whole life, and she'd even organized them by color and kind and type, and there were some like Ferragamo buttons in there.
Look, there were Ferragamo buttons. And there were Chanel buttons. Like, she must have had some sweaters or something, and she...
Right. These, it's mid-century buttons.
Yeah.
Buttons. And, I thought of Kate, who had talked about this, where she was at, actually, her local dump.
Yes.
And she had pulled out of the trash, a pile of old, but hers sounded really cool. They were, 18th century buttons,
very, yes.
These are all...
These are contemporary, or they're mid-century to contemporary.
Yeah. But, I think we'll do well.
But they're beautiful. We have this other, big lot of buttons, and they're molded plastic, and they're iridescent, and they're different colors, and they're cheap. They're cheap buttons. These are not cheap buttons. These are high-quality brass and enamel and, the nice stuff. Yeah. So... that's a great cache, and that's something that our helper can really help us get listed.
That was a Scavenger of the Week.
That was definitely it. Yeah.
Amazon FBA. Yep, we've slashed prices. Things are selling not quite as fast as they were when I first started doing it, but I'm trying to get as much stuff sold before February 17th, I think, when we have to do long-term storage fees. I think we've probably sold 100 items so far, which is good, but we have another 600 items to sell, so we'll see. It's good to see. Okay, random news, something that Nancy brought up, and I think it's very important for anyone who is, working on their own. The healthcare sign-up ends January 31st.
It's very soon.
So I know there's all this controversy about Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, but it's still in effect. They have not overturned it, so it would behoove anyone that wants healthcare to sign up, because from what I hear, whatever happens, there'll probably be a transition period. Right. So it'd be good to get, decent insurance now, and then... supposedly Trump says it's going to be better and cheaper, so that's fine. But get insurance now, healthcare.gov. It is private insurance. You're just doing it through that website. So.
Yes.
So how were our numbers this week? They were good. We had another solid week. Just things were selling.
Yeah. Yep.
In our main store, we made a little over $2,000. I mean,
what?
I know, right?
That is amazing. Look, there were some days where we always say, if I have too much stuff and too many crazy things to ship and shipping gets annoying, that is a good thing because that means you made money.
So it was annoying.
Oh, it was super annoying. I'd wake up and I'd be like, I gotta pull all these things out of clothing, before I start my day, before the lady comes, before our helper comes, or we have to go into storage and get this other random, stuff. And there was a lot of that, which is great. That's what we want. We want shipping to be annoying. I
mean, we sold 64 items. So basically, we sold 66 items in our main store. I mean, that's
crazy.
That's almost 10 items a day. And it's for us, that's high volume.
That's very high for us.
Yeah.
I mean,
hell, there are weeks in the summertime where we're selling 17 items. So selling 66 items
is great.
And actually, we sold $2,300 worth of stuff.
What is going on?
If you think about it, I mean, for us, that's averaging over $300 a day,
which is what we like.
I mean, that's great for us.
It's really good. So we hope that keeps up.
And again, last summer we had a couple of weeks where we made $800. So we have to
some of those weeks.
Grateful for these times. And,
absolutely.
And it couldn't come at a better time either because we need the money. And then in our second store, we made a couple $100. And you just started to put some new items in that store for the first time in 6 months.
Yeah, because we hit the limit of 1,000 items for that store subscription. And I was like, I'm just not.
Well, I think you overshot it, actually.
Yeah, I overshot it. So I let the numbers go down. And then we started selling a bunch of stuff lately. And so I've been bringing the numbers back up. So I just grabbed stuff out of those folders. Posters I listed.
Hey, why not?
Yep. So
some of the things we sold this week, my vintage pens keep selling.
Yep.
Keep doing incredible. We're going to get so tired of selling pens. You're going to be so tired of being successful.
Win!
It's good. We sold probably another several $100s worth of old pens.
Every time I see the cha-ching and it's one of those weird pen refill things, I'm like, that's amazing. I don't know. It's incredible.
That was a good cash. We sold this vintage parka that I bought for $1 at the thrift store, and it sold for $150.
It was a snorkel parka.
Yep.
It's military, but the thing about that one was it was denim. Didn't see any other denim ones listed, and it had coyote fur around the hood. So that's a nice coat.
And then things that you've been doing. We were selling lots of stamps and vintage
first day covers.
Cover. Those started to sell. So you just started putting those up.
Yeah, it's really nice when those start to sell because then you're like, oh, all this work on these
here's one thing.
Off.
When you're starting to sell things that you don't know about. We don't really know about stamps. It's only, Ryan is just doing a research and learning that way. She put these stamp covers up for $2,500.
Yeah.
And some guy from Cigna Pour was like, I'll give you $750.
For 2 sets,
right.
Yeah.
And you were like, nope. And I'm just like, I mean, I back you up totally, but I'm just like, because he said that they weren't worth that much because it didn't have some
specific stamp.
But and I'm like, is he right or or is he just trying to kill us on the price? But I'm glad you countered.
Also, when you see someone from Singapore, you're like, they have money. So and if he was like, I bought the last one that came up for auction, a week ago for $1,500, and that had the special stamp. And I'm like,
I think the reason why I feel okay about it, and that's why best offer is such a wonderful thing.
Yes.
Instead of putting it on auction, and only 2 people on the planet fighting over it, and maybe one of them's asleep, so one gets at an opening price. we start really high, like incredibly high, and then let best offer be our guide.
Right.
So because these have only been up for a couple days.
Yeah, just a couple days.
So he's kind of helping us peg the price. So we've gotten up to $750.
Right.
Let's see if we're getting any other offers for higher, or if all the offers are about that price,
then I can
then we kind of know, okay, that's
or
kinda,
accept that offer.
That's what the market is, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you really are going off of like other people's completed listings, where I'm like, this other one did sell for almost $2,000.
Like, you know, people that do sell like postcards, stamps, and photos, I wonder what kind of, if it's just instinct or just, you know, like how they come up with when you know you have something that's really kind of special. Like,
yeah. Well, it also has to do with like how many are listed. Like,
right.
These are first day covers from India. So that is
Explain
rare.
A first day cover.
So a first day cover is, from what I understand, when the first day of issue of a stamp comes out, there's like special envelopes that you can, like almost like commemorative envelopes.
And they're like, you know, postmarked with the date.
And it's like a fancy cancel.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like printed with like a, you know, different designs and stuff. And people collect them. But you can also just send people letters. Like a lot of them have someone's address and they've sent them a letter in it. Like, also. So it's a collectible. It's a way to collect stamps, and people collect them. Yeah, and it's the most uninteresting thing to me. But but I have a bunch of them. A bunch.
So something else that sold, and we made only $8 on it, but it's this old, crappy vase.
Now look.
That we got in the box lot that I would have thrown away, and Ryan was committed to it, and we've had it for 3 years, and it finally sold for $8.
Look, this was a porcelain vase, so it was quality material, although it was printed. So it, you know, it's not painted, or it's like printed on.
To me, it looked like something that you buy at Walmart.
Yeah, maybe it was, but it was porcelain. So I had it up for really high. It was like some stupid price. It was like $40, best offer. And then the other day, I'm staring at it because it's right next to our television, and I'm like, $12.99, best offer. If that's not gone in a week, I am throwing it away. Someone gave me a best offer of $8. I was like, yes, get rid of it. So at least I sold it.
No, I hear you. I sold a Mickey at Gilley's coffee mug, and
nobody knows what that is.
Only someone from Texas, and specifically Houston, would know this. Mickey Gilley was I think he's still alive. Is a country, it's music singer.
He's a singer
that was famous like in the 80s.
Yeah,
and he owned like a honky tonk
Gilley's,
and made famous in Urban Cowboy with John Travolta.
Oh,
you know where they had the electric bowl.
I never saw that.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No.
Anyway, so
but yeah.
Every so often I will see. I mean, we're up in Virginia. I don't know why it comes up here. Just a
Gilley's stuff.
Yeah, things because it burned down. I think
so
I
sad.
think they rebuilt it, but the original one burnt down, and that's always great because it's not great for the business, but it's great for these stuff because then you own stuff that doesn't get made anymore.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Anyway, it sold for $25, and the person gave us good feedback and be like, I love Mickey Gilley.
They were in Houston. Obviously, they were in Houston, but they were in Houston.
Yeah. So I'm glad to connect to a true fan.
Well, what's cool is when you find stuff like that because you're from the area. I would never have I would have been like, I don't know. I would have looked past it. But like that's the thing about like stuff for me. Like when I find New England stuff, I'm like, oh, you gotta get that because that's like such a thing, you know.
And then the last thing I'll talk about that we sold this African mask. I think it's like a fake African mask.
Yeah, it's like something a tourist would buy.
You know, it's just, you know, like a piece of wood with like a metal
and
pushed
shells
into it, and like it looks like a scary mask. Anyway, we bought this when we were in Florida once.
A couple of years ago.
You know, as tourists, we don't like to go to tourist spaces. We like to go to, we've talked about it's before.
Auctions.
The local auctions, because that's where you really get to meet the people of the community. And it was this really fun little
Tiny auction.
Tiny auction.
We bought a lot of stuff, actually.
In like an old motel court, I think it was.
Or like something like that.
And, you know, it was pretty run down, my kind of people.
It was perfect.
And we were buying the stuff that no one wanted to buy, like this African mask. And we bought, like, hockey sticks. And, like, people were like, why are you buying
I had to
this
ship
stuff?
those hockey sticks, man. But you know what? I sold them.
So we sold that for $85, and I was happy to sell it.
I think I originally priced that at, like, $400.
Yeah.
And then I brought it way down. And then she gave us an offer of
I think it's one of
80.
those things where, you know, something like African mask, you know, it's very specific, and you have to know, like, if it's authentic and what country it's from. It's from Ghana or from the Congo.
Right.
And these people collect that stuff. But customer issues, we didn't have any this week, but we did talk about a neutral that we got from someone where just the buyer didn't contact us about any problem. No contact, didn't want a return, but they gave us a neutral feedback and just said thanks.
Right.
And the first time we called, they said too bad.
Yeah, they were just like, oh,
reach out to the buyer.
Reach out to the buyer. That's their opinion. That's what they always say. And then I think I was calling for another reason. I was getting a return close because someone like never shipped something back. So I got a return close, and I was like, can you just look at this neutral, because it doesn't seem fair to me? And they agreed, and they removed it.
Now, did you do that because you could sense that the person seemed kind of like hip?
Well,
kind of
I just had a list of like 3 things I needed to ask them, and that was on it.
Okay.
And he was helping me with the return, so I'm like, of course I'm going to ask. And he was like, yep, that's...
So we still have a negative that we got recently that we need to try and get out.
I do have to try to get that.
Now, how long can you fight these things? Like, is there a point where they're like, it's too late? You know?
It's got to be, I think, within like 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
Like you past that, they're like, they might not.
Okay.
But they might. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's good to do it as soon as possible, but... I got a no on that the first time I called, so I kind of was like, ugh.
You got to roll the dice.
Yeah.
Oh, and I will mention one thing for those of you who sell on eBay and you sell bigger items and it's only as local pickup. We sold back in November this big barber's chair that we pulled out of this house that we bought.
Yeah.
It's a long story and super heavy. We weren't going to obviously ship this thing. We sold it on eBay to somebody, and he just picked it up.
Yeah, after 3 months.
A week ago. Yeah. And, you know, and so people ask that, you know, like, well, he's not picking it up. Like, what do I do? And for us, our thing is we make people pay immediately. Or
you don't make them, you can't make them pay immediately, but we're like, just pay us, and then let's work out the time to pick it up.
As long as they pay us, we really don't care how long it takes for them to pick it up, because I mean it really doesn't matter to us. I mean, obviously if they don't pay, then we won't wait for them.
We would just open an unpaid item case.
You know, it would have been great if he had picked it up earlier, but he was in Michigan, we're in Virginia, and we make them figure out how to ship it, and it's probably very expensive to hire someone to drive it, so he finally sent like his son-in-law to come pick it up.
I mean, okay, the barber chair is cool, right? It's green enamel, it's gorgeous, whatever. It has to be reupholstered. He paid $300 for it. His son-in-law drove 8 hours one way from Detroit, and then he picked it up. Jay helped him put it in the car, in the truck. Took 5 minutes. And he was like, I'm just going to turn around and go back. We were like,
well, that's
a 16-hour day.
That's what
plus
son-in-laws are for.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, things we learned in the forum. It's this past week, or things I learned. How's that?
Yes.
So several people said, because we were talking about, how there are sellers out there that copy a listing exactly, they copy all the wording and the photos and what can you do. They said you can use VERO
to
take down a seller that's copying you. So I had thought it was just for like big fancy companies would do us to us small people. But there's actually a link, and I'll put it on the blog under this podcast, that there's a form, and you can just fill it out and send it to eBay, and then eBay will send those people a video notification.
Well, that's good to know. That's the way to do it then.
Yeah. And some people have said that it works,
that's amazing.
They've tried it and it works.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing I learned was, we were having this. I mean, this really shows everyone's personality.
Yeah.
So a seller came on and said they bought something on eBay.
Right.
And
as a buyer.
And that as a buyer, and the person that sold them an item didn't have the item.
Right.
In
stock.
And then handled it in a very specific way. And the person asked, would you give this person a defect or a negative feedback? And so I will put the link to that conversation, and you can choose how that person handled it and if you think it was a good thing or not. And it was interesting seeing who was choosing the buyer side and who was choosing the
seller side. That was an interesting conversation. Another
conversation we were having, and I will put that as link down, is there's when we put something on sale, we use markdown manager.
Yeah.
There's this whole other thing called sales event manager.
I have never heard of that.
I know, and so it's interesting. If you're interested in this, get in this conversation here. So what happens is you use Markdown Manager to change your prices, and then you go to the sales event manager, and it creates a banner for you.
Oh.
And I don't know if somehow then it tells eBay but anyway, people were saying it seems overly complicated, unfortunately.
Oh, people were having trouble with it?
Yeah, and it's also
So is it new?
I don't know. Oh, it's new to me.
Yeah.
But you can see the link and see how it works on the blog. And then something I noticed that it happened without us hearing about this. We have a section on its forum where we let scavengers just maybe find each other, where they can say, hey, I'm in this town. Does anyone want to meet up?
Yeah.
Some people in Indianapolis actually had a whole conversation and met up, had coffee, and they scavenged, and then someone else joined in. It was cool.
Yeah, it's cool. So it looks like people are able to meet up and hang out and go thrifting together.
Yeah, I think that's really, to me, what the best thing to do is just be to let's just meet at this thrift store.
Right.
And then maybe people can learn of new places to thrift.
Yep, absolutely.
Or learn about new things to thrift. I know there's this guy who's hearing me who's why would you tell anyone about
That's my
your
competition.
Secret? But
But also
there's two ways to go about this. That it's scarcity and we're all fighting over a small amount of stuff, or there's abundance. There's more than enough to go around, and the better thing is to us to all have fun together doing this.
Well, I've been in thrift stores with other scavengers and other dealers, and I still find stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just they're looking for other stuff than me,
Yeah. What is our coming week going to be like? I'll tell you mine. Sheetrocking. We were sheetrocking this renovation we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a big push. I mean, we're almost done
deal.
with the second. Well, we're into the third stage.
You think this is the third stage?
This is the beginning of the third stage.
Okay.
Once the sheetrock and the floor is down,
that's final stuff.
I mean, then basically it's just put some light bulbs in, you're ready to go.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a list of stuff that needs to get done.
So I'm going to be working. It's with the guys hanging drywall.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yes, you will be doing that. I will be working with our helper.
Yeah, this past week was the first time. She's mainly been doing clothes and then stamps. This was the first week we actually gave her the box of just random stuff.
Just
heart monitors
the most
and
random
mugs, and
it's a soda stream,
right.
And some porcelain stuff. I'm just it was really funny because there were 20 or 30 things in a row, and I'm how we've been giving you a stack of jeans, and like a bunch of jackets. I'm like, that's not usually how it is, actually. This is how it usually is, with like the most random stuff.
Hard goods.
Yeah, so.
Now, I know we have more stamps, but you guys were getting burned out on it.
Yeah.
So the way to do that is to stop doing that and
Switch
to do
it up.
something up. I'm trying to think. We have...
Are you going to let me answer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or are you just going to tell me what we're going to do?
I got lots to go.
Well, no, it's fine because well, you have a bin of luggage bags and stuff.
I was just going to give you options. That's all.
I do need a cache of stuff to bring her.
There's a huge pile of like bags and
like luggagey type stuff
that I really don't want to do. There's also the cache of buttons.
Buttons, yes. Buttons, as most people say.
Buttons.
But
and we also have a small pile of clothes that we've
there
been
are some
buying
clothes,
too,
yeah.
so.
There's also like half. Isn't there like half the box of like random stuff, or did she already do that?
She
did that.
She did.
She was fast.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta list that stuff then.
All right, let's answer questions that people called in about.
And the phone number is 540-407-8486.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. My name is Chris, and just wanted to thank you for all the work you do. Listening to your podcast really just motivates me. You know, if I'm ever feeling like, I got to list stuff, or it's hard to source stuff. Every time I listen to you guys, I'm like, all right, let's go. So, thanks for that. A couple things. First, I wanted to thank you. I kind of took your advice in that you used a lot of the eBay revenue to fund your other endeavor. And I did that the first year of eBay. I just used it to fund the startup costs for a invention that I did. And, it's just really taken off, and it's become just a wonderful supplement to what is my eBay income now. I kind of lumped it all into the same company, and just really a great way to fund a startup kind of business. But the question I had was with regard to taxes, and specifically, when do you, I guess what I'm saying is, when you buy something, how do you remember or keep track, or what's your system for what you paid for that item? So many times we go to garage sales and things like that, and for the most part, I remember, I paid $5 for that or whatever, but do you do that as soon as you get home, or at what point do you jot that information down? Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yes, very good question. People always have questions about this, like how do you do your cost of goods sold? Because this is what you can deduct from your taxes.
Right.
So when we come home, we basically kind of inventory it, and we use a spreadsheet. Now, I will say, it is difficult. Like if we go to an auction and I pay $50 for a huge table of stuff, and there might be it's 50 items on there. Yeah, how do I tell like what's what?
Right.
I mean, what our accountant said is the IRS just wants to see that there's some kind of it's logic to what you're doing, and you're not deducting something for $1,000 that was only $1.
Right.
So I might say, okay, each of these things is only $1
because there are 50 things on the table.
If I buy a table, like we probably got 200 books for $10. I honestly don't even write that down.
It's so
sometimes
cheap.
Things are so cheap, like the amount of brain space to write off 10 cents, it's not worth it,
Right.
So we don't really write off things that cost so
like
small
that,
amount.
So small, yeah.
But the thing to do is to do it as you're getting it, so you don't forget. That's the thing. And I know it's a tough thing. It's taken us a long time to train ourselves to do that. But that's just, if you're wanting to deduct this stuff, and just imagine that you're in front of an IRS agent, that's good to do.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. This is Brian from Illinois. So I had a question for you about selling items in different categories on eBay, and if you see a difference in the hassle that you receive or may not receive. I was thinking, when I first started selling on eBay a long time ago, I sold a coin collection over the course of a couple of years for a family member. And at that time, eBay meant auctions to me, so I only used auctions to sell these things. And I was selling them for some number of months, and eBay actually sent me a message and asked me if I felt that selling items in the coins and paper money category had fewer returns or fewer hassles than other categories. And at that time, I had sold some other stuff, but probably 90% of the stuff I had sold was these coins. And so now that I've been selling stuff in a lot of other categories, I also have a friend that I sell some stuff on consignment. I know you guys don't like it, and I'm not a big fan of consignment. We've worked it out, a pretty good agreement, and he gives me a lot of either gently used or sometimes brand new electronics, and I sell those on eBay using auctions. And I know auctions can have more hassles on its own, but with the electronics, especially brand new electronics, it's very common. This guy, maybe he'll give me 8 items to sell, and 2 or 3 of them, somebody might jerk me around and bid something to the moon and then never pay for it, or occasionally somebody will get it and they'll use it for a few days and then they'll send it back. That doesn't happen that much, but I get jerked around a lot more with electronics and selling items on auctions. And I was just wondering if you see that. I know you mentioned something about having T-shirts returned often, but I sold all those coins on auctions, and boy, I hardly ever had a return. I don't think I ever had a hassle with that. But boy, it's really common with electronics. So I guess that's my question. Thanks, and enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, clothes. That's my answer. People return clothes.
And that, and that only makes sense because they see an item on eBay and it says a medium, but, and they get it and it doesn't fit them exactly right, or they put it on and they're just like, I don't really like this.
Or like,
it doesn't match.
Like this woman bought a skirt. It was a size 6, and she's like, it's just too big. It's bigger than, what I usually wear as a size 6. And you're just like, okay, they returned it. The great thing about hassle-free returns is they pay the shipping.
But, I will say, I talked about it on a podcast a month ago or so. eBay in the seller its dashboard tells you and tells us what its return rate is. And in the past 3 months, it's been like a little over 2%.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So we all complain about its returns, but in the big scheme of things, it's really small. And that's compared to like a retail stores where sometimes they're getting 20% as returns during the holidays, So we have it easy.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I think consignment, if you, don't have time or don't want to go and spend time scavenging for your own items, and you have like somebody, a relative that has high quality items and is really laid back about how it gets sold, I can see that as being okay.
Right.
But there's just so much stuff out there. Why not just find stuff and just keep all the profit?
Right.
That's my thing.
Exactly. Okay, that is it for the podcast today. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we talked about and to join the conversation on the forums. You can call and leave a question or a comment on our voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486. On Wednesday, we post a What Sells video brought to you by Steven Schultz. And he shows what he sold during the week and how much he sold it for. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. You can listen to our other podcasts where we talk about the renovations and our Airbnb business and what we're doing over there. And that's at shampooandbooze.com. You can also rent our vacation farmhouse, and you can see the link on shampooandbooze.com. We are ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Goodbye.